Well, that's perfectly good with me. Do you want to do any kind of intro, or just let me jump in?
Well, so for everybody who's joining the meeting, my goal was to give you guys sort of a picture of what tech has been developing with electronic signature capture, picture capture, pre and post trip inspection that are going to be available. Maybe some of the fleet management stuff that's going to be available, and hours of service that maybe we can take a peek at too on the mobile ODT mobile device. So that's kind of the idea. And we got Charlie here, Charlie from DQ Tech, who's going to do the presentation for us, and hopefully we're going to get it recorded. And then it'll be posted on our website, and we can hopefully direct anybody that has an interest in seeing it to the website so they can take a look at this demo.
All right.
So, Charlie, I'll give it to you.
Simple enough. I'll just go ahead and start from here. To start off, I don't know if it makes sense to just keep, I'm going to plan on keeping the microphones open unless there's a bunch of extra feedback that we need to adjust for. But if you have any questions or need to ask me anything along the way, just shout at me and I'll slow it back down. A couple of things you're going to see today are pretty new that we're just releasing along with the new ODT mobile product. So what I'm going to do just real quick is we're looking at, and I hope you're seeing my screen. Everybody, and let me know if you're not seeing my screen. But this is a picture of the new scheduler window from our ODT View client. So it's ultimately meant to replace the existing chart scheduler screen that you have in the ODT client. It's a little different in terms of form and functionality and how it works, and that it's built to be more of a linear time tracking tool than it is a specific fixed schedule tool. So all I'm going to do real quick is just take a couple of orders from the bottom and schedule them on a vehicle, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that vehicle to my device so I can show you the device and application layer. One of the things that you'll notice as I start dropping stuff on the top is all the trip activity and the trip efforts now in this particular screen are going to adjust based on what the requirement of the delivery looks like. So how much drive time in between orders, how much stop time at the point of order, everything that goes into the delivery effort is now going to be ultimately affected based on what you do from a scheduling standpoint. So as you take orders from the bottom and you stick them into a combination or group them into other tickets that are on the top, you'll see how this will start to kind of move and scale itself out. So right there I've got 3 orders on that particular truck. I can do a couple cool things from here. I can automatically optimize it, I can reverse it, I can shoot it over to the map, see how it looks. It has a couple of pretty neat little right-click features right there as well. So with that, I kind of made this just real quick trip, this little free stopper with 3 orders on it, and I'm going to go ahead and send that to my device. And it was just a quick little right-click to get it to my device, and then I want to bring up the device screen. And I'm just going to use this screen sharing. This is my smartphone. So it's a Samsung Galaxy Note, pretty simple little phone, but I'm going to launch the ODT mobile application. And I wanted to start this off like it was fresh and brand new for everybody, so I hadn't yet logged in to the application. Users would need to do a login one time for the solution to pick up either the user access or the controls that give you access to the application layer. But once you do that the one time, it's going to remember who you are, so you come back into it later. It's going to give you exactly what you're supposed to see, who the driver is, if you're assigned to a truck, which vehicle you're assigned to, all of that. There's a quick little note that pops up in my case because I am logged in as an hours of service driver. So it's telling me that there are some events that need certification that have happened over the past log period. And I'm just going to hit the Not Now button, but it does give you this kind of forward push notification if there are things that you need to do as a driver or as a delivery person or anything else like that. I'm going to start with this delivery tracking button, and then we'll work our way through the other 5 little buttons here in just a bit, so you can kind of see what those are. On my on my initial trip setup, you'll see that it does give me the trip ID, tells me the orders that I'm all delivering, all of that. When I click into the delivery tracking button, it's going to go out and make a request to get that updated stop data. So you can see there's the stop information for that particular delivery effort, where I plan to, if I click into the menu for the DQ Tech side, it's going to give me the details of the stops that I'm going to make. You can use or choose to not use the start and the end trip functionality. These are primarily in place for customers who might be delivering from locations that don't have a fixed GPS or geofence. So in your case, it's probably not as important, but there are tools available there. And if you're ever using rental trucks or some vehicle that doesn't have a GPS yet, you can get the same kind of data that we get from the automatically braking geofences and start trips and end trips. I'm going to go ahead and just hit the start trip button so that I can get that fired off, and you'll see it update on my client in just a bit. And then I'm going to click in the DQ test line. Now this DQ test, it can be called anything. Most people call it, delivery orders or something simple like that. It's up to you on what you want it to show. But I'm just going to click on the DQ test button there. There's the 3 stops that I had assigned to that particular trip. I'm going to Whataburger, Walgreens, and then ultimately the Exxon. Now, a couple quick notes. If I click on any of the line components over here, like Whataburger, for example, it's going to bring me up the list of orders that I have assigned to that particular stop. If I had clicked on this info button, it's going to give me some details about this particular customer, including lat long position. It does have navigation component options, so if you wanted to have some help getting you from your current location to that customer location, you can also utilize the tools inside this app for that. I'm going to go back through the Whataburger component, select that order that I had scheduled, and then there's a list of disposition choices. Now mine is kind of messy just because I've built my demo to have a lot of different options that people may or may not choose to use. You do have the option to do things like building loads in the mobile application. So if you wanted some devices out in your load build staff, you could do that. There are checking tools, there's arrivals, all that sort of thing. Most of our customers are going to have 2 or 3 different choices at the point of delivery. In this case, I'm going to choose this one here, delivered with signature, because it has everything that ultimately I want it to do. First little step is it pops up a signature window where you go ahead and get your signature entered in there. You will notice that it doesn't, if I had come back into this clean, it wouldn't let me process through unless I had captured some signature data inside the little window. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some signature data, hit the done. It then asks for a name. And that's pretty straightforward. You just ask the person that's signing what the name is. Spell my name right, just like that. And then I'm also going to pop up a picture option. Now this picture option is an optional that you can turn on or turn off. Just depends on what you want to do there. I'm going to give you a quick little picture of my desk. All right. And then back to the application side. If I didn't like that picture, I could click on it and it'll go ahead and delete the picture for me, but I'm just going to keep that. You can take as many pictures as you wish, and you'll see the little thumbnail there on the picture that you took. If there are any delivery notes, they can be entered here, or you can skip the note section. You've got a choice once you get to the note side, and I'm going to ultimately come back and click submit. Now you see now that Whataburger that I had dealt with has I've completed it. There is an edit button, so if I ever have to come back in and make any adjustments to the delivery disposition, or if it's a two-step process that you want to keep track of, you come back into it a second time and affect it from that point. Same thing with the others. You know, Walgreens. I click into Walgreens. Maybe I get here and I've got a little different choice where I want to mark it as a holdover or a not delivered or something like that. You can see that bypasses the signature capture, goes right into a note. I'm just going to type note for holdover. This note that's captured on the mobile device is both sent into our delivery application, so your dispatch users are going to see the notes. We also deliver that all the way back into SX as well, so it shows up as a note on the SX ticket also. So that's kind of the basics on the signature capture, pictures, images. I'm just going to shrink this back down so I can kind of show you what it's doing from a client perspective. You'll see that the colors are updating, you know, based on things happening. So there's my trip. When it went en route, the first order is now blue. I'm waiting on the second one to process. Once that second one processes, it'll be that kind of orangish color that you see on the holdover side. See, there you go. There's the holdover. You'll also notice that I got a picture flag and a signature flag on that particular ticket. A couple of places where you can see that. If I click into the drill down, which would typically have all the items that are on that component list, it's going to give you an image of the signature that was captured at the point of delivery. You can print that, you can preview it, all those kinds of things you would want. This signature also gets sent back into SX, so it's made available through an export routine, and then Infor picks it up, brings it directly into the SX database, and it's then available both on your total screen and to any of the third-party products you might be using for imaging, like NowDocs or Max Recall. Yep.
That only works if you're running the new GUI version of Trends, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no visual tool to see the signature in character. You'd have to log into the GUI and then be able to see it. We're still going to deliver it back. It's going to hit the database the same way, but you won't have any visible way to see the signature in character.
Okay, but we have to set some things up on our side so that the picture can be delivered back to the database, right?
There's a routine that you run. It's a pretty simple routine. Typically people turn it on so that once a minute or once every couple of minutes you look to a directory where we dump images. And then if there are images there, it processes them based on invoice number or order number in your case. It's a little bit of P code. It's native Infor code, so it's not like it's anything tricky. It actually lives inside the report module, so it can be run as just a simple job to query that particular directory. In my case, I look to I think I put a signatures folder that it's just on my local system. So as soon as it comes through the signature directory, it would process through like that. And you've got some choices on it. One of the other things you'll notice is I'm imprinting the name of the individual. That font can be changed and you can adjust the size. I also imprinted the time that the signature was captured on that as well.
That's good. Yeah.
What was that?
That's good. That's good.
Yep. And then on the other side of that is the picture icon. You can see that sign icon. So I've got a couple ways I can view the picture. If I click into the order edit, there's a little button here for viewing pictures, and it would just kind of go back out to the to the picture site and pull up that particular image. And you can see when I took it, I kind of took it upside down, so I'm going to flip it back over. So there's my desk. I took that quick little shot of my desk, my monitor, a couple speakers there. Hopefully you get a better shot of the material that you're dropping off in that case. The pictures are a little different than the signatures. They don't actually live locally. We store them up in a cloud application, and then they're basically just linked to the order through this utility. So when this picture flag is there, that's going to tell the user that their picture is available. you simply click into them to do that. If you wish to download the images, there are a couple of different download image tools, where if you click on the view picture button, there's an image download feature where you can save all. So if there were 6 or 7 of them, you could save them all to a directory, email them off. You also have the same information available, both signature information and picture information in the customer portal. And I'm just going to open that up quick so I can kind of show you what I mean there. I'm going to log in with my test user here.
So Charlie, let me say a couple things here. So everybody who's listening, this version of ODT View that Charlie has been running that allows us to go in and look at signature capture and pictures, we're not using that yet. We haven't installed it yet. So it's something that's coming down the road. So you can't do this right now, but what I want you to know is this is what's going to be available.
Perfectly said. And if you like it today, we'll start working on it tomorrow because it's ready and available. We just have to do a couple of updates and some of that. But so I logged into the portal, which if you've all seen the portal before, it's a website. I've got a username and a password. That would be the same for local users that you guys manage internal to GMS. Plus, if you start to get to the point where you deliver out users to your customers for that internal access, you can have that as well. You can see this is the group of orders that I had for my San Antonio test accounts. If I click on this images button, it's going to go pop up the image that I took, this image of my desk upside down. If I hit the signature button, it's going to pop up the signature image. We have asked them to clean this up a bit so that it's better formatted based on the schematic of the device. So this will be a little more accurate in the future. Plus, it'll have the encoding of the signee and the date timestamp that you saw on the other client as well. You also notice the one that was marked as holdover. So you've got that holdover notice, when it got there, arrivals, departures, all those kinds of features. So those are the two kind of main tools for what I call the delivery tracking component of ODT Mobile. The DT test, I'm going into Exxon. I'm going to select my order or orders. I'm going to pick the delivered with signature option, get my signature, done, get the person's name, done. This time I'm just going to skip the pictures. You don't have to take pictures. I'm going to skip the note. So now all those are finished and I'm through that particular trip. I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I got back to my warehouse and end the trip at that point. So when I come back into the view application, you will see this whole section here inside of about a minute is also going to update. I'm going to get my delivery notice. I'm going to calculate the trip time in. It's going to do the mileage calcs, all those kinds of things that it does today. From a GPS perspective, you're going to have the same kind of form and functionality there. You can see there's my delivered notice. The picture isn't quite through yet because I didn't. You see that one has the checkbox. That one does not for pictures because I didn't take pictures on that. But you will see the second signature that I took right there.
So Charlie, the link that you were looking at for the web portal where it showed the orders.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a different link than what we're currently using?
Nope, it's the GPS page, just like always. The only difference is, your user might not have customers selected for visibility. So there's two features that need to be ultimately enabled. First is you need to turn on which customers you want to deliver data to the portal. So on your left-hand side, that would be, the customers who have processed orders. You tell us that on the ODT view side. So let me just show you what I mean real quick. So if I come into this particular delivery, you see on the left, this is San Antonio test accounts. In the customer master, there is the ability to turn on the portal access. So this would basically say for anything written against Whataburger, we're going to send it to the portal. You can do the same thing as a customer main perspective, or if I did it on this checkbox right here, that would apply to any of these ship-to accounts that ultimately are created against that particular customer. So you turn that on first. Once that's on, the information is then delivered into the portal, and then you'll get this left-hand side that'll give you all the customers that are visible, and then you simply apply to your user the ones you want to see. So for Charlie, the guy that I logged in with, I wanted to see these 3 customer accounts. That's why it shows up with these 1, 2, 3 like that, with the pull downs and such. If you gave that to a customer user, I'll just log out and log in as Charlie customer. It's not going to have any of the other functionality that you're used to at the top. You won't have your GPS tracking. You won't have, the geofencing, reports, any of those kinds of things. It just gets you directly into the portal. So here your customer can log in, Charlie customer, and they can see their orders, which orders have images attached to them, which have had signatures, that kind of stuff is now available from a portal perspective.
So,
that makes sense?
So guys, people who are listening and can hear what's going on, do we want to give customers access to this kind of information, or do we want to have control over it and then be able to email it to them or send it to them in the future?
Hey, this is Michael, and I'd be a little hesitant to, give our customers access in here. It's,
Yeah, you're opening up a can of
we give
worms
them
doing
the wrong, it's ABC customer, and we give them ABC information or something along those lines. I just want to be really careful about, giving the customer information out until we've used the portal a little more down the road.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm thinking what we need to be able to set up is somebody at each yard, right, who has visibility to this information, and they can decide whether or not they want to distribute that information to the customer, but not let the customer go in and have visibility to it.
Well, let me tell you what people typically start off with. And I'm just going to come back in and log in as my other user, the Charlie admin user. Oops. So there's 2 kind of phases to the application approach. The first is you're actually going to control the user layer access to all your customers, where there's a particular type of role that gets applied to the user layer. So in this case, there's that Charlie customer user. That would be something that I set up as the manager of this company. It's not something your customer is setting up. They're not touching it. They're not managing passwords, users, any of that kind of stuff. All you're doing is getting them set up with a user and with an email address, and then you're applying the specific customer account to that particular record. So once that application is there, the Charlie customer user, then you have access to do 2 things with it. Charlie customer. The first is granting visibility, which you can't do anything inside this particular site other than see what's happening. There are 3 sections to the page. There's a current order section, which is everything that would pop up right here. There's 30 days of history, and there's also a section for anything scheduled into the future. So it's just a matter of seeing your orders, what the status is currently of that order, and any time-relevant data of the order itself. But nothing you can do here, no scheduling, no seeing trucks, anything like that. Just making the assumption that you're kind of keeping your order data up to date. Inside this particular user control, the user can also set up any event messaging alerts that they would like to receive. And these event messaging alerts are based on these 3 criteria. When an order is new to the portal, we're going to send a message. Just like when you place an order on Amazon, you get a message that says, hey, you wrote a new order. Same thing here. A lot of people don't necessarily care about that. They know they called it in and they're expecting the order, that sort of thing. But maybe they want to know when it goes en route. Because that en route notification is going to include both the en route status update, the orders that are being delivered, where they're being delivered and what the ETA is of that particular delivery. Same thing with the arrived message. You know, when you physically get to the customer job site, you get that arrival notification that gets sent off automatically. So what most people tend to do in the beginning is they'll set up a couple of what I'll call internal customer users. They'll be GMS users, but they'll be for specific customers. You know, maybe you've got a handful of customers in the Northwest where you want to kind of test it out and try it out first. So you'll set up test customer user, you'll apply it to test customer, you'll look at it for, you know, a couple of weeks, maybe turn on the messaging, you kind of get a feel for how things work, and then at that point you can kind of selectively introduce it to customers and see, you know, does this have value for you? You know, if we turn this on, would you like to get notifications, you know, on in routes, or maybe they just want to log in daily and see. We found, I was kind of curious, so I've been doing some research on it and looking at our customers who are utilizing the portal. It's about a 50-50 split for the types of users that we have who are customer users on whether or not they actually log in and see the information, or whether they set up the alert notifications and they get the alerts. About 50-50. You know, some people, they log in every morning, they see what's going on, you know, they get a feel for it. Other people prefer to have the message automatically sent when something happens, and they've never logged in, you know, after that first setup. So kind of few different ways with which you can do that, but it's not something that, you know, we're going to flip a switch and it's then going to be available, you know, and immediately start emailing everybody over the head, you know, with all their order data. It's something that you can kind of control and get to, you know, a little more gradually. Does all that make sense?
Well, so let's say I'm Joe Martin in Spokane, and I've got a list of customers that I'm delivering stuff to, but I don't want them necessarily to get notifications. I only want myself to get notifications as Joe Martin. And I only want myself to be able to go in and view the signature capture and the picture capture. Can it be set up so that happens, or
you can get the last part of that. So right now I'm logged in as, like your example, Joe Martin, who would be a GMS customer or a GMS employee, and then right. And then I've got 3 accounts that I'm tracking, you know, these 3 accounts. I can click into each one of them. I can see the orders that are written against that particular account. I can see the relevant stop data, signatures, all that kind of thing. This particular user, the GMS user, does not have a notification component. The notification component is only available for the customer user. So if you wanted to have a notification sent to Joe Martin, you'd have to set up a Joe Martin user for each of your customers.
okay? Well, that'll be a pain in the butt.
Well, why would Joe Martin want to have emails from every customer?
Well, he might want to know when every delivery is on site.
In an email?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just look at the portal?
I mean, yeah, I would just look right here, and then you see it, or the client, or anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't think we would want them emailed.
I wouldn't set up a customer and you have the alert go to Joe Martin, and then, you know, he gets a feel for, hey, do I, you know, forward this to my customer, or do I just keep it in my pocket or delete it or whatever else, just so you can get an idea of what the alerts are like, and then down the road you can.
What I'm understanding is that Joe would not get the notification. We could set it up for the customer to get a notification, but Joe would not.
Well, what I'm saying is you would set up Joe as the recipient. So you'd set up a customer user for whatever list of customers you want to track, but then you would make Joe the recipient of the emails.
Makes sense.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, I've not had anyone ever ask for something like that, just because the volume of messages becomes, a little bit obscene. There's
well, that you would only do that just as a trial basis, just to kind of see
Correct.
yourself what
Right.
the customer will be getting. Okay, yeah.
Right. Yep. And there are a few things that you'll want with that. Like for example, we put a logo on the emails. I'll send you all a sample of what the notification message looks like, so you can get an idea on what it is. And then it's typically one or the other. Most people tend to do the en route message notification because it's they typically plan to arrive or to be there or something like that. But I've got a bigger percentage that are starting to choose the arrival notification message as the key message for when they want a message delivered to them.
Now the en route, if you've got a truck leaving that's got 3 different customers' orders on it, the en route notification would happen when it left the location, correct? Or would it be from, if I'm talking customer number 2, second delivery, it'll be when he breaks the geofence of the first delivery on the way to the second?
No, you were right the first time. The en route message will trigger that email, but it is going to include the ETA that is calculated out based on that expectation. So if it's the 3rd or the 4th or the 7th stop, the customer doesn't know that, but they will get hopefully an accurate ETA based on that.
Oh, so it'll take those other deliveries in consideration when coming up with that ETA?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yep. You see where each of these, here was, my left at 12:10, my ETAs were all different, so that Exxon notification, when the 12:10 email goes off, it's going to say your vehicle is en route, the ETA is 2:47.
Right. Okay.
And that's kind of the nice piece of how the scheduler works now as well, is it gives you this kind of more linear approach to what's happening with your vehicles. As you make that schedule assignment, it kind of builds in both the travel component time and the stop component time. So you get a good feel for, what is it really going to take you to get that order completed once you get to that customer location. And then in between, what is your travel requirement, to get between each of your stops to your customers. In my demo, you can kind of see, I just have these little gaps because all my demo data is stuff in my neighborhood, so the little white gap that you can see here, it's 2 minutes travel time. It's a half a mile away, so it's pretty quick. In your case, you'd have, if you're going to go 5 or 6 miles or 10 miles between stops, you'll see those different travel gaps inside there.
I kind of like the way it's broke up like that. I like it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I've been working hard on that.
What if the driver stops for fuel?
Yeah, we can't allow anything like that.
I mean, to get something to eat.
Yeah. I mean, you still have your kind of real-world things going on.
Okay.
So, some of that stuff you may wish to take note of it. Others, you're just going to kind of let it happen. If you wanted to set up an order for a guy to go have a lunch break, you could. I've got 1 or 2 customers that maybe do that on occasion, but it's not real regular practice. There's kind of an expectation where there's trucks that are moving around in the real world and things are going to happen. Now, we are going to stay very close to the ETA values. So we do periodic checks anytime something happens to see if you're ahead of schedule or behind schedule, and we will adjust for whatever happens from an ETA perspective to that. So, if there is a 60-minute delay or something getting out of your first stop and on your way to your second, when that happens, we can re-trigger that event to go out to the customer to say, hey, here's your updated ETA. So we've got a couple tools like that you could take advantage of. But outside of that, have your trucks full in the morning and, eat lunch on the road is maybe the best option. Hope you're not. No, hope nobody's union or anything. Yeah. Okay. So, any questions on the delivery tracking signature one? That's pretty. I mean, pretty simple. We've tried our best to make it as simple as we can for the users. Then I'll just kind of move into these next ones. The pre and the post-trip inspection are, and I'll make this a little bigger so you can see that better.
Hey, Charlie, I have a quick question.
Yep.
It's Michael. Can you talk about messaging? That's one of the notes I had. Within the Garmin's, I can send a message to the drivers. Hey, Joe, you're a dummy. You missed the turn. Turn around and turn right back into the subdivision. Also, messaging within ODTMobile.
I don't have a messaging system yet, but there is going to be a push notification tool for messages. It'll be another button down here, and it's going to work with the device's push tools. So, like right now on your smartphone, when you get an email or something, it gives you a little notification that you got an email from whoever else, like you would see. So you'll get that same kind of thing where the message will pop up and then you'll just come into the client to see that message. So very similar to how the Garmin works. The reason we're kind of taking that one last is because it already is a smart device in the vehicle. So there's a bunch of other messaging tools that are available. You could use the standard SMS. There's Skype, there's Velo, there's 5 or 6 other tools that, or if you need to have a messaging platform, you could have one today, and then we'll build our messaging tool into our application here shortly.
And what about the routing, the turn-by-turn directions? Is that in there now?
Yeah, that was there now. When I hit that info button, you saw I had there's the screen that, I just click on it and here's the nav. It pops up. You can set your defaults on which navigation software you want to use, but, I just hit my start, and then it's going to work its way through.
Awesome,
so
thank
just, similar to what you're used to there. Okay, any other delivery tracking questions?
Nope, not for me.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to do a pre-trip inspection, and just to kind of take you through real quick, I was already logged in and assigned to that vehicle, but if you needed to select the vehicle, you just click on it and it pulls up a selection list. There is a history that'll take you back through historical inspections that you may have completed on that particular vehicle. So if you have to recall or if you get pulled over, you have access to all the inspection history. The inspection itself is pretty straightforward. There's the vehicle, the address that the vehicle would be assigned. Typically, I'd have that filled in. Who the driver, carrier, all that data is information that will be part of the database for your particular company, and it's going to fill as you would expect automatically. The next is just a real quick, simple tool. The current odometer reading is going to be pulled from the odometer data. So if we're getting odometer data from your vehicles through the JBus connection, we're going to automatically fill that. In my case, there's my odometer reading. General condition questions, anything that is a problem, your user would check. So if there was a problem with the body or the door, you check that particular box. In-cab, exterior, these are the 3 kind of main conditions that are going to apply to all vehicle inspections. And then you have the option to build add-on, what we call add-on inspections. So if you have a particular set of vehicles that you might, for example, have a boom associated with, or a vehicle attached forklift, you can have a couple of extra choices that will give you more questions for your user to get through. But in my case, I'm just going to leave these all unchecked for now and hit the next. It asks for any remarks that you might make. I'm just going to put in a note. I'm going to say the vehicle is satisfactory, and I'm going to capture the signature of the driver. So fairly straightforward. It then gives you a quick summary of that particular inspection. If there was anything of note, it would pop it up there, and then you save an email that particular inspection. Now in my case, you can automatically default it to have a particular customer assigned in that particular list. I'm going to go ahead and just put in Charlie and email it off. Or you can set up on the fly emails where you want that information to be sent. That's going to hit a couple places. First, it's going to end up, let me shrink that back down so I can get to it. I'm going to log into the asset management page, which is this page right here. So Charlie test. User, same user that you use on the GPS page. So here comes the asset management page. I'm going to go to my San Antonio location, and there's my vehicle that I was inspecting. You'll also notice that that vehicle inspection email just popped up, hit my inbox. There's the inspection, and here's the inspection result with my signature. Everything's safe for operation, all of that good stuff. In the asset management page, you'll see I've got a daily inspection section for each of my vehicles. Where I click on that daily inspection section, there was my pre-trip. Everything that was checked by the driver would be in that pre-trip inspection section. These can be emailed off, so if you wanted to send it to another user because there was a problem with it or something else like that, you can forward that on from the website as well. If there are any issues of note, like if it had a condition that had a problem or a defect, you're going to get different colors down this left-hand side, down this right-hand side. The greens are all good. Yellows mean there's red means there's an issue, and orange means there was an issue, but it was corrected, and we're now using the vehicle. So there's a little bit of a key that'll kind of help you keep track of that. So that's
This is a different site that we go to. It's not the.
Yeah, it's a asset management site. They are going to be linked together. Right now, you get the GPS site for the GPS stuff, and then you get the AM stage site for all the asset management stuff. But they are going to be linked together. Right now, I just don't have the linking set up between the two sites.
Okay.
And also, you control the user layer access to the asset management pages. So, your standard GPS user might not need the asset management access. So you'll control that as a customer admin for those users as well. Similar kind of colors down the left-hand side. There's a green for good, yellow for you have an approaching preventative maintenance or an inspection requirement, and red for your passed on your inspection requirement. You can see I've done some things here, or I've entered in some fuel log data. I've had some PMs that are scheduled for the vehicle. I've got some inspections that are scheduled, and it'll kind of keeps you up to date. Anything that's approaching or past due, you'd have that kind of yellow and red notifications. We also added recently in this recall tool, so you can keep track of recalls that might be coming up for a particular vehiple. And we link to a couple of recall sources to bring in things for different manufacturers. Sets of vehicles, so in this case I had a pressure monitoring issue on my vehicle, so I completed the recall and moved on. So you'll have the ability to kind of keep track of recalls and those activities as well. So this is coming along. We've given it now to, I think, 3 different beta customers who have been doing some pretty extensive testing for the last couple of weeks, and I think we're to the point where it's about general release available. So probably do an announcement and then maybe shoot for general availability in the 1st of September for the asset management site. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it. There's obviously preventive maintenance, parts, vendors, add-ons, inspection components, all those kinds of things that you would want. And it ties into the mobile client, so that pre and the post-trip are both going to, be contained from a client perspective here, and then they're also going to be made available through the website to your users as well. Any questions on that one? Okay, and the last little bit, and then we'll kind of move on from there. That you might have noticed there's a little icon up here at the top. This is because I'm logged in as an hours of service driver. It does give me this kind of duty status selection criteria. So in my case, I'm currently off duty, which isn't so accurate. I'm going to turn myself on duty. You'll notice the icon will change. It says on duty, not driving, that kind of yellow icon. If I was driving, you'll see another icon, that green one up there. You can get to the same stuff from the hours of service log, where there's a duty status button here. You can make that status selection. Shipping info is also information that's going to come out of the database. I don't have any shipping information currently set up for this particular test user. Your driver log, your log header records, the charts, all the things that you would expect for the hours of service components are going to be available in this particular section. And then there's also roadside inspection. So if you get pulled over by a DOT officer, you have to make a couple of things available. You have to be able to transfer your log data via web service or via email. They have to be able to look at log header records, unidentified driver records, things that are ultimately consumable for the user. So we've got the majority of the functionality built into the hours of service menu, where I can change my duty statuses. I can see what the driver log data looks like. I can edit and maintain records. You can see there's my record certification options. There's these certify buttons. So we've got most of this done. The things that we're working on now are the kind of driver visibility tools, so you can better see how much time you've got remaining in your log cycle, how many hours you've been working today, how many hours you have left today, what your graph looks like, etc. So I've got probably about another week or two of design work that are going to go into this, and then we are already in the certification process through the FMSCA folks. So the certification right now is scheduled to take about 60 days, and they've been a little behind, so I'm not sure exactly when we'll have final certification on it, but that's kind of where we stand on the hours of service component. Any questions on that one, or any of the other choices inside that?
So
tool?
If I want to get Billy Bob set up so that he can do hours of service off his cell phone, do I just need to set up a driver profile for him?
Yep. Same driver profile, same driver user that you set up today, and then you just get him the latest ODT mobile application.
Okay. And so what if Eric O'Branson wants to go in and do pre-trip inspection and post-trip inspection stuff? What do I have to do to get him set up so that he can do that?
For that one, we just need to get you the latest ODT mobile application, and then we need to set up the equipment in the asset management site. So we've got a template that we can use to say, which locations do you want set up, and it'll pull the information out of your local database, and then it'll populate it into the asset management website. Once it's there,
if I told you I wanted 1501-BLO, which is already set up in ODT, if I told you that, would that be enough information, or do you need?
Yeah, that would be enough, except for I'm going to make somebody else do it. So I'm going to call Ben or one of my guys and say, hey, we want 1501 below set up for asset management, and then get some training out to Eric or whoever else you want to have trained over there. But yeah, I mean, let's if you want to give me a list, you want a couple folks that we can kind of start with. Yeah. I'm happy to do that.
So what you're telling me is you need to have like truck IDs, GPS IDs associated with those trucks, and I don't know
Yeah.
what else.
Well, most of it is all in obviously in your local ODT database. So, like the equipment names, the equipment descriptions, make, model, year, the GPS device that's set up in the vehicle. If you have some of the more readily available information like VINs and licenses and expirations, and those are obviously all things that we want to keep control of in the asset management page, the better. The more you have, the better. But if we just get the basics out of ODT, then we can populate it all, and then from the portal you can add in, any of the stuff you need to add in.
All right. I'm following you because not all that information is not in there right now.
Yeah. Right. All right. So it'll take some effort to get, to get some of that stuff, added into it. But once we've got the basics there and you've got access to the asset management page, it's pretty easy to work inside. So it won't take too much effort to get caught up. I don't know how many trucks they've got in that Bloomington location, but probably inside.
I just threw that out there as an example.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Any other? Whoops.
Hey, Charlie, can you just touch on conceptually what we're doing with Infinitime and getting time data into the hours of service for a few people that are on the phone that haven't heard about it?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we've got the whole timing thing worked out, but essentially there's a service on the Infinitime client to deliver your punch data for your drivers. So when your drivers get in the morning and they punch in, we get that whatever time it is as the start of duty. So their on-duty notification is going to be entered in based on that punch record. Same thing with the off-duty notification. Anything that happens throughout the day, the drivers will have to do on their application. So taking their lunch breaks, coming off duty, the driving versus the not driving, all of those will be functions of the application itself. And it's all going to be kind of back-end push related. So as the device recognizes that you're not driving, after 3 successive not driving notices, it pops up a message that says, we're changing you to not driving. On the Infinitime side, I'm pretty sure the timing is every 5 minutes right now, but
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So we're staying pretty close to what's exactly happening on the Infinitime side. So your drivers will come in, they'll punch in, they'll go start doing their work, log into the client application. By then it's going to have their duty status start record already populated. So you're just going to quickly verify that record and move on.
So the idea here, guys, is that we can get a punch-in time from Infinitime that gets imported into the DQ tech system, and then the DQ tech system recognizes when the truck leaves the yard, so that we now know, like on that first run in the morning, we know when the driver clocked in, and we know when he left the yard, and we know how much time he was hanging out at the yard. And so and there's a report set up to measure that. That Charlie's already set up for us, but we have, it's an integration process with Infinitime, so we have to make sure we get the driver's information, punch in and punch out information exported into the DQ tech system. So if there's people out there right now that want to get that going, let me know. I can make that work.
And we actually did a couple reports. The one that you mentioned is this kind of driver utilization report where it compares all your punch data to your actual driving data. Eric asked for another one that was specific to starts. He wanted to know what the timing was between when they clocked in the morning and when they left on their first runs. So we gave him that, I think, last week. He's pretty happy about that.
Yeah, no, it works great as soon as we get the incentive time report to work, right?
Sure. Yep. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I think it looks awesome. I'm excited.
Excellent. All right, so I'll kind of circle back after this with Richard, and we'll see if we can kind of come up with a strategic plan to maybe introduce a couple of these features to some of the locations, and then, next time we get together, we can kind of share some results and talk about maybe a deployment strategy or, however else we might want to broaden any one of the features or not.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlie. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Yep.
I need to jump onto another call, but I really, really appreciate it. It's looking really good. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for
Hey,
your time.
Charlie, one quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
Where are we at on the vehicle maintenance module?
Well, that's what I was, that's it. The name has changed. It's called Asset Management now.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yep, it's there.
Okay.
If you don't, who's asking, by the way?
John Brandon with Capital.
John, okay. I'll go ahead and see if your user is set up to have vehicle maintenance access. And if you're not, I'll turn it on.
Perfect.
And then you can come in and take a look, see what we've got.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, yep. Take care,
you.
everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Yep. Bye.